Hi, this is Andre, and thanks for checking out Synthisophy. Synthisophy is scientifically integrating the wisdoms of history, based on fact and truth, into our present culture. We're going to talk today about Chapter 29, What Can We Do? Recall that hominids that cooperated with one another and punished those who didn't must have outfought, outhunted, and outbred everyone else. Over millions of years, this genetically evolved and biologically selected tribal ethos, resulting in the warrior ethos that led to the exit of Homo sapiens out of Africa 70,000 years ago, resulted in the dominance of this species and the extinction of others. This ethos resulted in our becoming the dominant and only human species on the planet. And it's still hardwired into our evolutionary genetic consciousness. So maybe if we understand that these evolutionarily developed instinctive cognitive biases, the resulting confirmation biases, and the argumentative theory stoked by the tribal and warrior ethos may very well be present in the 100 billion neurons in our brain generating our perception of reality, our neural reality, which, as proposed by Anderson in Fantasyland, by Powers in The Silencing, and expanded upon by myself, may not always reflect true reality. It may be unreal. It's in our genes. It's been in our genes for a very long time. So let's take a step back and try and detach ourselves from this genetic predisposition. Let's try and take a deep breath and be a bit more rational rather than emotional in our political positions and discussions. Let's listen, seek the truth rather than argument, and reduce the amount of polarization and vitriol present in our society. So what can we do to depolarize a nation? Take action. Participate, as just described, in the democratic process. Be an informed citizen and get involved in a cause that will better society. We need an active and informed citizenry that is synthisophic and neureal. Consider classical times in ancient Greece. At any particular point in time, not just on election day, an estimated 75% of voters were participating in government in one form or another. Consider what Thomas Jefferson said, quote, "The people cannot be all and always well informed. The part which is wrong will be discontented in proportion to the importance of the facts they misconceive. If they remain quiet under such misconceptions, it is lethargy, the forerunner of death to liberty." End quote. Abraham Lincoln said, "If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves." So take action on one of the political issues I'll shortly be talking about, or any of the hundreds of other issues you think are important to you, to society, and humanity. So what can we do to take action? Run for office at the local, state, or national level. There was a surge in candidates running for U.S. Congress in 2018 and 2020. Take action. Choose an area of interest and contact your local, state, or national representatives and express your views on that topic. Form a group supporting a particular topic and do the same. Create a website or organization to express this opinion. Take action. The Senate now is not a valid representation of the people. When the U.S. Constitution was written and the U.S. Senate was formed in 1789, the 13 colonies had a population ranging from 60,000 in Delaware to 700,000 in Virginia. Back then, Virginia had about 10 times the population of Delaware. Today, California has a population of 40 million, and Wyoming has a population of 600,000. That's 70 times more. A 10-to-1 ratio back in 1789 might have seemed reasonable, but I wonder what the Founding Fathers would think today of 70 to 1. California has one senator per 20 million people. Wyoming has one per 300,000 people. Can this be changed to a more proportional representation by a constitutional amendment, by merging states, by adding additional states, or some other means? Research them. Take action. Gerrymandering. There are software apps that draw lines and create districts by the in-party with a large portion of the out-party's voters and just a few districts, and the rest of the districts split. So many have a majority of the in-party's voters. The in-party then has a disproportionate amount of representation in government. It's a false representation of the population. It's called gerrymandering, named after Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry, who in 1812 signed a bill that redistricted Massachusetts to benefit his party. One district of which looked like a salamander, thus gerrymandering. Here's a quote from David Winston, who drew House districts for the Republican Party after the census in 1990. Quote, as a map maker, I can have more of an impact on an election than a campaign, more of an impact than a candidate. When I, as a map maker, have more of an impact on an election than the voters, the system is out of whack. End quote. So let's get rid of gerrymandering and come up with a more equitable method of drawing districts. In Michigan, an all-volunteer group of 3,000 activists has defied the odds by collecting hundreds of thousands of voter signatures for a 2018 initiative to overhaul redistricting in Michigan. See what they did and do it in your state. Take action. Get rid of the Electoral College, or set up a state-by-state contract to bypass it. There's a proposal in the works now called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, and it's an agreement between groups of states to award their electoral votes to the winner of the popular national vote. The Electoral College was set up by the Founding Fathers to ensure against an unyielding public choosing an unqualified candidate, with the electors voting for a different, more appropriate candidate should that occur. Perhaps that was a good idea back in 1787, but now it has done the opposite and elected Donald Trump with 3 million less votes than the opposing candidate. I don't think the Founding Fathers would have approved of this outcome. Contact your representatives. Join a movement. Start a movement. Take action. Get involved in depolarization as described at betterangels.org. The United States is disuniting. The last presidential election, and our present one shortly, in November 2020, has only made clear what many have feared, that we are becoming two Americas, each angry with the other, and neither trusting the other's basic humanity and good intentions. Today, Americans increasingly view their political opponents not only as misguided, but also as bad people whose ways of thinking are both dangerous and incomprehensible. This degree of civic rancor threatens our democracy. Launched in 2016, Better Angels is a bipartisan citizens movement to unify our divided nation by bringing red and blue Americans together into a working alliance. They're building new ways to talk to one another, participate together in public life, and influence the direction of the nation. Take action. Overturn Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. This was a landmark U.S. corporate and campaign finance law dealing with regulation of political campaign spending by organizations. The U.S. Supreme Court held by a 5-4 vote on January 21st, 2010, that the free speech clause of the First Amendment to the Constitution prohibits the government from restricting expenditures from independent non-government organizations towards advertising for political candidates. Note that a company is not a person. This opened the floodgates for the super rich to drive elections. Recall another quote from Thomas Jefferson. Quote, a vast accession of strength founded on banking institutions and moneyed interests is riding and ruling over the plundered plowmen and beggared yeomen. End quote. Take action to address the super rich driving elections. Are you in favor of term limits? Congress has a 17% approval rating, but a 95% re-election rate. That's because our elected leaders can abuse their power to keep away challengers, which transfers power from citizens and into the hands of unaccountable career politicians. If you see fit, go to termlimits.com and other sites for information on this topic and take action. As a note, I have summit meetings at my place every few months. Now we're doing it virtually through Zoom. Friends come over. We have fun and talk politics for an evening, making sure to keep it friendly and respectful. Take action. Have a summit meeting at your place. Start your own political website promoting discussion on various topics. See synthisophy.com as an example. Use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, or many other platforms to promote your site. Try and stay centrist. Take action. Nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it state that the government is a two-party system. So let's create a third party in the middle, between the left and the right, and call it something like the Realist Party or the Centrist Party. Close a revolving door between Wall Street and other major financial, investment, medical, and other institutions, and Washington. The major players shuttle between top jobs in Washington and Wall Street and other major institutions. As a result, the government is captured and in effect becomes an arm of these institutions, passing laws to make bankers and CEOs richer rather than protecting the average citizen. Isn't this what Thomas Jefferson warned us about? Take action. Figure out a way to minimize fraud, as seen in the tobacco, fossil fuel, opioid, pharmaceutical, and the insurance and defense industries. Minimize fraud and unemployment, welfare, Medicare, and Medicaid. Take action. Can anything be done about the unequal distribution of wealth in this country? Let's take a look at wealth distribution, as shown in this diagram by Dan Ariely and Michael Norton in their 2011 study, Building a Better America, one wealth quintile at a time. If you look at this chart, you can see from the survey taken, here's the ideal distribution of wealth in the United States, as seen from the survey. Here's what the surveyed people said was the estimated division of wealth in our nation. And the top bar is the actual distribution of wealth in our nation. The point here being, note the disparity between the ideal and the estimated distribution of wealth versus the actual distribution of wealth. If you take a look up here at the actual, the top 20% have 84% of the wealth of our nation. The second 20% have 11% of our wealth. The middle have almost 5% of our wealth. The bottom fourth has 0.2%, and that is such a small amount it doesn't even show up on this chart. And the bottom 20% has 0.1%. Again, it's so small it doesn't even show up on this chart. And you can see the disconnect from the ideal. There's still some wealth in the bottom 20 percentiles. Even in the estimated, there's still some. But in actuality, it's a sliver, you can't even see it. Does this seem reasonable? If not, take action. Reinstate the Glass-Steagall Act. Otherwise, the mortgage crisis of 2008 would not have happened. Take action. Is there a middle ground between the right to bear arms, mass shootings, and public safety? Take action. Pass a law that requires presidential candidates to submit and make their tax returns public? Take action. Get involved in the Black Lives Matter movement? Support your local police? Take action. Does anything need to be done in the area of immigration reform? Take action. Does anything need to be done in the area of healthcare reform? Take action. Expand the Supreme Court? What about term limits on the Supreme Court? Take action. Campaign finance reform? Eliminate super PACs? Take action. Rebuild the American infrastructure? Take action. More quickly transition to renewable energy? Should we enact a carbon tax? Take action. Add more states to the Union? Take action. And most importantly, vote. These are just a few suggestions. There are many others. With Synthisophy in mind, I hope that many people will take action in our democratic republic and go in many directions to bring about much needed change in our present society. As Thomas Jefferson was quoted earlier, it's time for the people to stand up to the current moneyed interests, to the alt-right and liberal left, to bring our democracy and society back to its roots. It's what the Founding Fathers originally intended, as stated in the Declaration of Independence. Quote, "Governments are instituted among the people, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." End quote. And as Abraham Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address, "The government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." What will be the answer to Ben Franklin's question about the creation of the USA and the U.S. Constitution in 1787? Recall he said, "We've given you a republic. Can you keep it?" To make sure the answer is yes, take action.